John Ames is 76 years old, writing a letter to his 7-year-old son. He has a heart condition. He knows the boy will grow up without a father. So he sits down to leave behind everything he's learned about faith, about beauty, about what it means to live a life in one small town in Iowa. And most readers take the letter at face value. A dying man's gift, a father's blessing. Maybe the most tender act of love in contemporary American fiction. But here's what Robinson actually built. A sermon delivered to a congregation of one who can never stand up and walk out. Ames has spent his entire life in the pulpit. He estimates he's written 2,000 sermons, enough pages to fill a small library. He knows how to build an argument that sounds like a confession. He knows how to arrange words so they feel like revelation rather than persuasion. And when he sits down to write to his son, he doesn't stop being a preacher. He just finally finds the perfect audience, someone who will read these words decades later with no memory of the man, no context to challenge him, no ability to say, "But that's not how it happened." The letter is full of beauty. Ames describing light on water, the weight of a blessing, the smell of oak in his father's church. Robinson's prose is so luminous here that it's easy to be seduced, to feel you're in the presence of genuine wisdom. But notice what Ames keeps circling back to. Not his son, not theology. Jack Boughton. Jack is the godson, the prodigal, the man who left Gilead after fathering a child he abandoned, who returns looking worn and uncertain, who sits at Ames's table and talks to Ames's young wife with an ease that makes Ames's chest tighten. And this is where the letter stops being a blessing and becomes something closer to a deposition. Ames cannot forgive Jack Boughton. He says he can. He writes around it, above it, underneath it. He produces some of the most eloquent theology of grace in modern fiction. But every time Jack's name appears, the prose shifts, becomes watchful, defensive, almost legalistic. Ames isn't describing Jack. He's building a case, and the jury is a boy who won't read this letter for 20 years. What terrifies Ames isn't that Jack is sinful. It's that Jack might be good in ways Ames can't control. Jack comes back to Gilead with a secret, a common law wife who is black, a child, a life made impossible by the same America that Ames has never had to confront from inside his white clapboard church. And Jack asks Ames, his godfather, the only theologian he trusts, "Is there grace for someone like me? Can predestination leave room for hope?" It's the one question Ames's 2,000 sermons should have prepared him for. And he fumbles it. Not dramatically. Robinson is too precise for that. He fumbles it quietly, the way a man misses the moment when the person in front of him needed exactly one true sentence and got a paragraph instead. This is the novel's real architecture. On the surface, a father writing to a son. Underneath, a man who has preached grace for 50 years, discovering that grace, the real kind, the kind that costs you something, your pride, your jealousy, your claim on the people you love, is the one thing his theology never prepared him for. Ames can write about the holiness of light on water. He cannot sit across from a broken man and simply say, "You are welcome here." Robinson knows exactly what she's doing. She gives Ames the most beautiful sentences in the novel when he's talking about abstraction, existence, baptism, the miracle of ordinary things. But when Jack is in the room, the language tightens. The sentences get shorter. The preacher who can find God in a soap bubble cannot find generosity for a man sitting on his porch. And the letter, this letter to his son that everyone calls a masterpiece of fatherly love, is where Ames tries to make it right. Not by forgiving Jack in person, but by narrating a version of events where his hesitation looks like wisdom, where his jealousy looks like protectiveness, where his failure of grace looks like the ordinary struggle of a faithful man. The letter isn't a gift, it's a revision. Near the end, Ames does soften. He blesses Jack. He lets something go. Robinson allows the old man a moment of genuine grace, almost despite himself. But by then, the reader has seen the machinery, how a lifetime of eloquence can become the most sophisticated form of self-justification. How a man can preach his way around the one act of love that actually requires him to be silent and open his door. Robinson wrote Gilead 24 years after Housekeeping, and in some ways it's the mirror image. That novel was about a woman who couldn't be contained by a house. This one is about a man who never left his, and the letter he writes from inside it, beautiful as it is, carries the faint sound of a door. He almost opened, and didn't, and finally, too late, too quietly, did.